whakarongo ki te tangi a te korimako. Kōrero flowing out the hook of force. Kaupapa relevant, kaupapa out of bounds, kaupapa exigent, kaupapa paramount. Nā ko nā whakapiri mai ki te kaupapa tino whakahira hira whakarongo pi kari kari mai. Hare hare mai, o Taringa hare hare mai. We gotta gather up close everybody. Gather up close everybody. Kani move that body. Kani move that body.
Whakapaia ke kiuta, whakapaia ke kitai, ko ngahuru kai painga tēnei, anei anō ko te kai e hora nei, hei kai mā koutou te iwi kua tata mai anō ki a Taringa. E mihi atu nei kia koutou katoa, kei ngā iwi, kei ngā maunga whakahi, kei ngā wai whakatere taniwha. O te hau kāinga nei o Aotearoa puta atu ki te wai pounamu, wai hoki koutou e ngā iwi, e ngā Taringa. O te ao e whakarongo mai nei i Tiamani, i Pāniora, i Guernsey. Guernsey always gets the shout out.
Guernsey, you get the shout out. Tēnā koutou.
Ane e mihi nei kia koutou, ko hoki mai, koutou me o koutou te ringa, ane ki te puna pāho o Taringa, e whakapāho atu nei i te wānanga o Aotearoa, i te pī ki taone, bustling metropolis of Te Awamutu.
Beep, beep.
E mihi ana kia kōrua, tēnā no kōrua, engari me huri nā mihi ki tā tātou manuhiri.
Yes.
Kei te tuahine tēnā koe Jade, tēnā koe.
Tēnā rā koutou katoa, ko Jade Maipi tōku ingoa, no Hokianga, ko ku whakapapa, ko te rarawa, ko ngā puhi me ngā tipāwa o ku iwi, tēnā rā tātou.
Kia ora, Jade.
Kia ora, tēnā koe.
Katoa. And i a tāua i te whare wānanga, ko tō ingoa, ko tō tāua tupuna.
Ai, ko reitu.
Reitu te wahine no tai nui
I thought it was going to be reiti ki ngā krahe.
She wasn't reiti today.
Yeah,
No,
we were reiti.
I was the reiti one.
I was reiti.
I was the reiti.
Yeah.
I'm always reiti.
Ko ai te me reiti. Me te tuku i aku mahi. Koe no. Tēnā koutou e ngā lecturers.
Ai.
Tēnā koe tuahine mau i whakawāte i a koe ki te kōrero mai ki a mātou. Toko toru nei o tira ki te katoa ngā kaiwhakarongo rima te kaumano ko atu. Ka tūhono mai ki a Taringa. E mihi ana kia koe tēnā koe. Before we launch into our kaupapa, we're going to throw it over to you mo te kiwaha.
Kiwaha, no te taitokerau, pau te kaha.
Pau te kaha.
Pēhea te whakamahi tēnei kiwaha e ko?
Ka toro mai e tahi oku whanaunga me te mea mai, ke te whakahaere wānanga ki roto i a waima, ko reira koe tuahine, ke reira hau pau te kaha.
Pau te kaha.
Oh, I like that. I'm there.
Oh, okay.
100%.
I'm handy.
I'll be there 100%.
100% hāti, koira te kiwaha o te taitokerau.
I always hear it used amongst hui when kaumātua might stand up and goes, e marama, e tautoko ana tēnei kaupapa pau te kaha.
Pau te kaha.
Yeah. I vehemently support this matter.
Yeah.
Cool.
I waiatara i a pau te kaha.
Che.
I really I use that quite a lot actually.
Aye.
Have you got them ready? Do you want to try one out?
Oh my gosh, you always put me on the spot.
You know I put people on the spot.
You know you got to be ready. Yeah, that fella puts people on the spot.
Yeah, he always puts me on the spot. Pau te kaha.
Ka pai, tēnā. Feti. There you go. Here's another one. Now, you used e marama.
Yeah.
So, you know.
Oh, yes.
Pehe nā whakaaro ki tērā.
Ka waiho mā te manuhiri pē kōrero. Tēnā koe whai. Hea whakaaro mo te, hea te kupu mara, e mara.
Well, ko ngā kōrero te kāinga e mea ana, koina te he momo kiwaha mo te bro, whanaunga, taitokerau ki taitokerau. I roto i ngā tau kua rongo i taua kiwaha e huri haere ana. Me taku whakamiharo i te mea i te nui o te wā ko ngā kiwaha i au e pake ke mai ana ko ngā kiwaha o te tai rāwhiti me ngai tūhoe e rongo ana. Nā ki au, e rata ana ki au, engari ai ko kaumātua pake ke tēnei whakatika mai ana i au, hei, i a koe i tāmaki he pai noiho, engari ka hoki mai ana koe ki te kāinga anei, me pēnei te whakatina no taua ki kiwaha. I was like,
Tēnā koe. E mahara nau i tētai haerenga oku ki te hiku, ana ko te kaumātua ko Joe. Koia te kaumātua no te kao?
I hara taunga i taua hui mate?
Kao Hoi anō, i te kau I whangarei tēnei, engari no te kau ia, and I te kōrero etahi I te mete I roto I te whai kōrero, and then I muri mai, I ki mai a ki au kare e tika a rātai kōrero. I whakatika I tana pai, and he said, mete is in the wet reason in these situations, engari kua ōpaki. Haere te whakamahi o te... koina tana whakaaro ki te mete, ka mea waiho e rā kupu ki te kāinga.
Kia ora.
Te mete, and that's, koe te mei kōrero mai kei mo te kōtiu. So I can understand the mara. But, you know, I wai, kia moe mai koe te hene, wai nganu ia māua ko te puaheiri, you know, he'll say to me, e tai, which is what Tainui says, and not all of Tainui, and I'll say to him, me mara.
Like, you can get away with doing it to each other because you're friends.
You can get away.
Yeah, but if you were doing it to someone else, it could be taken offensively or nah?
I reckon whakamahia, but for me, I have to adjust things in my reo when I'm with my pakeke.
Kia ora.
And so I'm fortunate, you know, ko ngā kōrero ka whāngai mai kia e mautonu nei au. So ka waiho māku e nā kōrero hei whakamara mai kia ki tamariki. Engari, e ora ai te reo whakamahia karawhiua.
Tika.
Engari te waka hoki kāinga, tika au I au anō.
Ana.
Yeah, tika tai.
Ana.
Tika tai, yeah.
It's sort of like, I don't know, te rā whanaungatanga I Wanganui a Māua. When I go to Whanganui, you know, they have kupu that they use, so I'll use those kupu.
Yeah.
Like, ki te kōrero, ki te kōtiro, I'll say e nō, and if it's a young fella, he tāhai.
He tāhai, yeah.
I'll say e te, and like when I'm down the coast, I'll use hika.
Yeah, hika,
really use, like, e hika, to address somebody. I think the intention, he me nui tērā.
Yeah, and people, you know, ka miharo te tangata, ina ka rongo I e whakamahi ana koe I tana reo. You know, my mates on the coast, I say, ooh, kei te aha, kei te aha. And they go, oh, che, kei te pai.
Yeah.
So, te kai tā hoki. And they go, che, using my reo. Like,
I've asked you this before, but I can't remember what you said.
Oh, hika.
Yeah, no, but does te
Kei te
whānau
aha,
nui use kei te aha?
Oh, kei te aha, yeah.
Cool.
They just don't use ties.
Kōrero Māori, me kōrero Māori, pautikaha.
Ai, whakamahi a ngā reo.
Ties, T-A-I, e tai.
Ai.
Hoi no tā hene, kia huri tātai tēnā koe, tēnā kiwa, and usually we've been pretty subdued lately, on using our kiwa.
I think the fact that the kōrero we do have is quite enthralling, so we sort of move away from the contest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ana, enthralling, pautikaha.
Pautikaha.
Engari, tā tātai kaupapa e hoa ma? How tā tātai kaupapa?
Urban Māori.
Oh,
Yeah.
urban, I was going to say, urban legends.
Urban legends, wow.
You know,
There are some
I know
urban legends.
Jade might be in whānau, they're actually urban legends. Yeah, they're doing legendary things, I roto I...
Ai, koutou,
Yeah.
mate.
Pono.
Pono marika.
Urban Māori. Now, you know, me pono au, I nai nei, me ua ka rongo I tērā kōrero,
Ai.
or maybe it's the bubble, excuse the pun, the bubble that I'm in, that I don't hear that kupu.
Kia ora.
Urban Māori as a reference to, you know, Māori that live in towns. I think it was coined in the 90s.
You know what? To be honest, growing up in Auckland, I hated that title because it separated me.
Kia ora.
You know, ahau I ko kaumātua, ahau I pakeke mai, ko te reo Māori, te reo anake, ia wikene, ko te hoki atu ki te hokianga, ia hararei, I pērā mātou. And every time I heard Urban Māori, I used to think of that as a really ugly, embarrassing term to wear. And I remember when we were at Wharewananga and this whole thing of Urban Māori came up, and I understand now that I'm older, the reasons behind that title was so that, with regards to West Auckland, it was the term that was able to verify a grouping of people.
Kia ora.
So that places like Waipareta, health and social services could reach into getting some funding for Māori that had moved to West Auckland.
Kia ora.
Our health service, our social services providers, and, you know, now our whānau in West Auckland, we're like fourth generation now
Tika.
of whānau being born and raised in West Auckland, and we're so lucky for those services that Waipareira has given us. And then we have Waipareira do an awesome thing like they have a kahui kaumātua that they look after. Much like in Waikato, you know, you have the vans, ka huri haere ki ngā kaupapa katoa, and every kaupapa that Waipareira is supporting, there's always a kaumātua tent and things like that. And so it gives that reanga purpose for when they resign from their everyday mahi, continuing their mahi. And I'm so grateful for what Waipareira has done for our Māori community in West Auckland. But I will be honest, I didn't like the title growing up. There's certain settings when I hear that title, and I still don't like it because it used to be used as a weapon that separated, well, there's us at home and then there's all of yous who are in the city. But now I think I have grown to have a sense of pride in that title because, and that's because of the community at Hāni Waititi Marae and in West Auckland. We're very fortunate to have a community that was built and created around a marae.
Yeah.
And we're thriving.
Kia ora.
Definitely. Pautaka.
Aku mokopuna, we're thriving. I te ao Māori, e reo Māori, ko te hikoe, te mata o te whenua, he Māori, tērā I puta I tēnei āhuatanga o te Urban Māori.
Kia ora.
So I have a sense of pride in, you know, my reo. I was raised in the city. I did have my grandparents. I'm one of the first ones to say, you know, ko taku reo, akona ki te taone, ko kukaia ko taitokero, tairāwhiti, Waikato.
Kia ora.
And I'm proud of that. You know, sometimes it's, you know, oh, kazi, you know, you me whakataitokero koe I tō reo. I said, I au I te taitokero me pēnā.
Kia ora.
Ki roto I aku mahi,
Pai.
o mahi tahi mea I au I whakata Māori, ko te mea ke me marama te reo.
Kia ora.
Ki te Taringa. And that's actually something that I had heard from Pania when we were doing the Koko Muka online series, was when she was teaching, because I was producing Ako with her, the TV series, and her whole thing was I had to make sure that I was using reo that the majority would understand, because this whole platform was about teaching te reo. And so for us as Mahitahi Media, our goal is to push te reo Māori and te ao Māori into spaces that are new. So I understand in my mahi and where I'm in Tamaki Makaurau, I just use the reo that we have, but I am mindful when I go home, I tokero I taku reo. Me whakamama ake I taku reo. E mara mai ki oku pakeke when I say to my karani, oh, he kupu whakarite tēnā ne karani, and he's like, hey, how tēnei mea te kupu whakarite? You know, he's an academic, engari he reo, ko tōna reo no tetahi atu reanga.
Kia ora.
Nā reira, I au e huri huri haere ana, he mea ako te reo ki ngā wāhi katoa.
Ana I a koe kōrero ana mō Hāni Waititi, tērā kura o tātou, I reira au I tērā tau mō te kura iti o Hōata. And ko te rangi pōwhiri, koia te rā o ngā whānau, e koe nā te kupu mō Tawara?
He hui marae.
Hui marae. And oh man, te Māori o tērā hui.
Ai.
I tino Māori I whakahihi pai au I te wairua, I rango nai reira I ngā tamariki, tūai, ki te kōrero, ki te whakaputai o rātou whakaro. It was amazing. And it felt like, ko te whakarongo mai ana, we ran a kura reo and the kaupapa was Harepota. You had te kura iti o Hōata. The little school of Hogwarts.
Of Hogwarts, ai. Kauro te maramatata.
Nā kau. And tētahi o ngā mahi a ngā tamariki, they had to pick out a name. I was the kaiako, I think. And then kai, yay, ngā tamariki. Me te katoa, e harai te mea ko ngahu anake.
Ai.
I huro, engari, ko te kura tuakana hoki, I reira rātau e harerui ana, e titi hao ana, e kare ki te wehe, e ni rangona te wairua, e nā tērā I pai ai te wairua o te kura reo.
Ai.
Ki oku nei whakaro. And yeah, so mohi au he tuāpapa nui tō te maraira, ki roto I tō ao, me te ao o e hia ke atu, ko haere ki tērā kura.
Ai.
Yeah. Wai mari ana mātou, te wā I tū ai, I te wānanga tahi mō te marae o Hāni Waititi, me te tapa te marae ki taua ingoara I haere a papapita, I haere I hoki atu ki te kaha me te inoi atu ki te whānau. Me nai whakai ana kia tapa te marae ki hoani riti mana Waititi. He nui ngā wangawanga I te mea kāre rata tihia ki te hinga tēnei kaupapa, ka hinga ko te ingoa me te ingoa o tō rātou tupuna. I roto I ngā marama tahi rātou ka whakai mai. I taua wā, ka whakaro te motu. Pēnā kei reira te nuinga o te iwi Māori e mahi ana, e whai oranga ai rātou, me tonoa a mātou mātanga, tohunga ki ngā taone. I te mea, me tonoa ki reira hei atawhai a rātou. Nā reira, I au I Hoani Waiti, wai mari ana mātou I te nui o ngā mātanga, tohunga me ki I tai mai ki te whakako mai a mātou.
Kia ora,
I te nui o te wā he ringa āwhina noiho. So we were very fortunate to have, back then they were just papa, mama. Now when books are being written about them and there's exhibitions about them and we're going into these different settings, it's only now that I've realised how fortunate we've been for iwi to share those people with us. We had Papa Hohepa Delamere,
Kia ora.
te whānau a Apa Nui, he tohunga tēnei tangata, and he was our first pūtaiao teacher. So when we were in high school, in the middle of the city, we didn't learn about chemistry or biology. Our science, our pūtaiao was ko ngā tamariki a rangirawa ko papa, ko ngā tamariki whitu te kaumārima, ko te tuakana, ko uru te ngangana, ko anei, ko ana wahi. And so I didn't realise that we're fortunate to have that. It's only now when we move into different settings and I hear people talking about Papa Hohepa and the things that he has taught them, then I realise, oh, gee, we were lucky to have that. And then ka hoki ngā mahara, and so now we're starting to pull out that kōrero to bring back to the kura. And not just with Papa Hohepa, but so many other people who have had a hand in Hoani Waiti Marae and who have actually have a hand in raising me. And then that is continuing in my children and my mokopuna. So I'm very fortunate to have that opportunity, and it was because we were Urban Māori.
Kia ora. Kia ora.
How do you and your tāne find the balance between te noho ki tāmaki and maintaining your ahi?
We were lucky, taku huaranga tino no rahui pokeka, nā reira kotahi haora noho pēr, te tawhiti. So it's always been easy for us to get back to Huntly where he's from. When we were at university, I loved living in Waikato. I loved living amongst another iwi that was so driven under kingitanga. And I learned a lot for that, and I wanted that for my kids. And so I had our eldest up here in Tāmaki, went to university, and he was with us. So he got to go to school, Kohanga Reo School. That's our number 1 and number 2 kids got to be raised down there for a bit. And I'm thankful, and they have a strong connection, but we make an effort to get back as often as we can so that our kids can keep that connection. Because the number one thing in my whānau up north is don't come home and behave like a tourist on your own marae. You get in those toilets, and so we're the hard-working ones in our marae. And so when I met my husband's whānau, they're the same. And, staunch Waikato, staunch kingitanga whānau. I loved it. And so fortunately for my kids, we go back as often as we can. Probably in the last 10 years, I have always, during Koroneihana, I always send my kids back to Koroneihana to work in the kitchen. So Tarahi's mum used to run the sports down at the, in Turanga Waiwai, and his auntie Pare helps out in the kitchen and in Kimiora. So I send my kids back, and I've always let Hoani Waititi know, I te wiki o te Koroneihana, ko te hoki atu aku tamariki ki reira kuhu ki te kihini. And because Nanny Beaver's there, who is staunch Waikato and kingitanga, she's like, yes, my moko.
Ka pai.
So I just wanted to ask, being in Auckland, your Māori community up there would be made up of different people from different iwi or countries even. Are there any challenges within that?
No, because when Hoani Waititi Marae was established, Te Kawa o Ngāti Whātua was put in place straight away.
Yeah.
Kia ora.
It's always been like that. So that made things easier. However, there was one period when a new whānau came in to manage the marae, and he was from Te Tai Tokerau, and he said, well, when I run the marae and when I'm doing kai kōrero, I'm going to run it with my tikanga. And it was a bit shocking to a lot of people and caused a few issues. And then when those issues had arisen, then the marae whānau came back in and Papa Peter came back in and said, this is why the kawa and the tikanga for this marae has to stay with Ngāti Whātua.
Kia ora.
But then I'm just like, so Papa Peter, when we were little, it was Ngāti Whātua, but then when we were about 10 or 11, we learnt that the iwi is actually Te Kawero Āmaki, so why isn't Te Kawero Āmaki tikanga and kawa? And then he goes, oh, right. And then so haere atu a reikura rau ko kauriki ke te noho tahi kia Rewi Spraggan ma ia rātou ma ki te ako me te whakahoki mai e nā kōrero āhuatanga ki tō tātou marae.
No reira, i tai tokerau anō te tikanga o te marae.
Oh, i whanaia tai tokerau.
I whanaia. I hoki ki mahurangi nā. Oh, pai, it's very Māori too. Understanding that even though this is a marae and it's in an urban area, the first focus is the mana whenua. So even though it was corrected, Ngāti Whātua being identified as mana whenua, that's very Māori. Even though Papa Peter, kahununu ake nei ia, he could have said, this is going to be kahununu, ko te whakaritinga o tēnei marae, kahununu. But there was the idea of establishing mana whenua and the rights of mana whenua. Tēnā Māori tēnā mahi. Tuahine, how did you get to Auckland? Yeah, nā te aha i Urban Māori ai koutou. Well, yeah, I pēnei ana tō noho.
Well, ko ngā Pākehā me ana he Urban Māori ahau, engari ki au he Māori noiho.
Kia ora.
Kia ora.
I understand what comes with that reference and being able to access funding and, you know, certain things open up when you can verify a grouping of people. But for me, he Māori ahau, and I just live in an urban centre.
Tēnā koe.
Kia ora.
The easy thing about being an urban Māori is that because you're a minority and you live amongst so many different iwi and so many different races, you grow up to be very mindful of people's differences in tikanga and culture.
Kia ora.
When I'm at home, my whānau aren't like that. And they're not even like that to the neighbours who are just, you know, that hapu that's just over the hill is, hey, when you're in my valley, nei ngā tikanga, and take your tikanga back there. So I find it's easy sometimes being an urban Māori because we've been raised to be mindful of things.
Aye. Agile.
You're exactly right. It's been agile and adaptable. And because we've been exposed to so many different mita, so many different tikanga, visitors who have come to our marae, or when we're visiting other marae and other kaupapa, we have an understanding on how things roll differently. So when I was in Waikato for university, people down there were like, oh, you fellas are out of it from Tai Tokerau. Like, and I'm going, what's out of it about it? And they're like, well, why do you do this, that? And then when I started explaining to them the tikanga behind do, they were like, oh, that makes sense. And then they were like, oh, you know, and the tuhoi, you know, the tuhois or the tairapiti, like, and that's when I realised it's because we've been exposed to so many different iwi. And not that we know, but we were familiar with different things. And we found it a lot more manageable for us according to the setting.
I myself grew up in Auckland, and you develop a wider lens of your world or where you are.
Well, we've got the coming together of the east and west side.
Aye, Westies were on the east side.
You know, I was trying to pick up on a couple of things you said. You know, you said, I'm a Māori. You know, nā tētahi ke tērā ingoa.
Kia ora.
You know, Urban Māori didn't go and call themselves Urban Māori.
No.
Aye.
And you know what is Urban Māori? You know what I mean? Am I Urban Māori because I live in Te Awamutu?
That's
Is urban Māori the same as townie?
Nah, well, see, I was getting to that.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that's something else. Oh, bloody townies. He mea no tērā.
Hey, up north we get, you Aucklanders, don't bring your flash shoes up here, that's what you get. Don't you come complaining because your shoes have been taken.
Because I'm a townie down the coast because I grew up in Whakatane. In the town.
That's a townie. Yeah.
I'm only 15 minutes from the pā, but nobody lives out there.
No.
You know, my grandparents were the last ones to leave back in the early 80s. We go there all the time. We're there at all the kaupapa, but we don't live there. Yeah, so I think there's this misconception how urban Māori has been used to describe Māori that live in suburbia and are disconnected.
Aye.
And that is the misconception.
Kia
That
ora.
if you're a Māori living in town, you're disconnected from tō ao Māori.
Aye.
Engari mō tēnā. We were at a marae, and there was a papakainga next to the marae, and I reira mātou mō ngā pō e rua e noho ana, just recently. And I could see all these people living in the papakainga, like they're like 5 metres, 10 metres from the wharekai. And I thought it was weird that none of them came to the marae, to the park, to the marae. They weren't at the pōwhiri.
Yeah.
And maybe they had their reasons. And I could see that, and the ones that came to do all the mahi, they lived like an hour away. They came to do our catering and stuff, and manaki. Manaki a mate. And I think we may have explored this conversation before, that proximity doesn't...
Yeah, it doesn't determine connectivity. Yeah. Kia ora.
Maybe your Wi-Fi. Kaua ko tō hononga whakapapa, hononga wairua e rāhuatanga katoa ki tō marae.
Yeah, I see that at our wānanga for our own marae. All the people, most of us that turn up are all the pakeke, all our kaumatua and kuia, and then everybody else is from out of town, because it's all the ones from out of town who have that hunger for it.
Ana.
Whereas the ones at home, they're happy to carry on
Take it for
fishing
granted, eh?
Take it for granted.
Yeah,
or,
I don't know if they're taking it for granted, but they might be like, I know one of my cousins was like, oh, nah, I already know all of that stuff. Nah, yous go hard. But all us that don't live at home, we have that hunger for it because, you know, we don't have that experience that they have.
In our whānau, we travel back. Julian flies up from Christchurch and we travel home. So we're home minimum once every 4 weeks to be amongst our pakeke and to learn what we can. And, you know, that's the commitment. He's flying up. Then there's a group of us from Auckland and then we all go home. And we have one cousin that lives up there that comes. You know, it's like, man, you know, we've got other cousins who live on the same valley road and it's like, hey, here, up. And I think it is because we live so far away. And maybe it could be age too. Like those are the things that, well, for me, I know so much more important now because I have mokopuna. And, you know, and they have different whakapapa, you know, their whakapapa is outside of Waikato and Te Taitokero. And so my koha to them is to, if they ever have any questions or just to know, is anei tō whakapapa o Te Taitokero me Waikato, ko ena atu whakapapa ka waiho ki tēnā taha o. And Te Rahi and I really do a lot to make sure that we're doing the best as we can as nana and pa, to make sure that our mokopuna feel comfortable at home and that they know their whānau. So much so, my mother-in-law has even asked for one of my mokopuna to go and live with her and go to rākau manga. I was like, oh, be careful. Don't be surprised if she's got that mokopuna enrolled without you knowing.
Already got a uniform, eh? Oh, come on, Bubba's going for ice cream next minute. Oh, it's her first day at kura.
Kani move that body.
I remember a time my grandparents moving down from the north. They came from Hokianga. And it was post-war and I pohara pai o rātou wāhi whenua. So they came down looking for mahi. And I heard stories of them going around and meeting the neighbours because these were the first state houses in East Auckland. And of course there was a scheme of pepper pottering. That's the word they used, to pepper pot the migrating populations in different areas, but mostly around the areas where there was industrial advances or, you know, there's a lot of mahi. So they got mahi in the factories. But my mum talked of my grandfather who was given these rubbish bins and they were so clean and pristine that he just couldn't think of putting rubbish in them. And running water and refrigeration, you know. And he would prepare his kai in that, and even he had made cookers out of them. And there were some other people, there were hainamana next to them because they were the Chinese gardens in Mount Wellington. Where they first lived, they lived in a raupo hut in the Chinese gardens in Mount Wellington.
Wow.
So their first bosses were hainamana. And they always said, and we never knew, they would say, go to the Chinaman, get your groceries from the Chinaman. And to the day that they died, they always say, go to the Chinaman, and I think that's why. But they said that they met a lot of other people. There were Tūhoi family, there was a Ngāti Porou family, and they would go around and have little whakatau at each other's houses.
Oh, pai.
Yeah, no, this never really meant much to us, but my mum told about how, we had to go down there to Mrs. Palmer's, or we'd have to go down there to the Heinemans, to get called after the last names, and they would go and meet each other and talk about how they got here and all that stuff. And then, of course, you had hui mate in town, in the homes, where the conversion of your state house was your whare, and actually was quite normal for us to go to whare in Otahuhu, Manirewa, even out west, our cousins in Rānui. And you'd have hui mate, and then you jump on a bus, head up to the north, and they talked about going around the old way before the Harbour Bridge, but this was Auckland at a different time. Then my parents were born, they were in Tāmiki College, then us, and so we're third generation, fourth now because we live in another urban setting. But tika what I wanted to get to was they went through a point in time where it was about the livelihoods of their whānau, so they moved for money and mahi, and then my parents age, they took on the activation part, during the 80s, 90s, where they went to uni and they found these things. And I think that's when, you had John Tamihere, who was at university at the time, Willie Te Aho, even Willie Jackson and all them. And then there was this course of urban reactivation. And so, our parents, I'm talking about the reanga, boomers, you could call some of them boomers, they set in place that time of reconnectivity. So in time that their children could go back. And I think that's what's happening now. Jade, Koutou, you are the fruits of the trees that were sown by, your kaumātua and that. And so, it's great that we get these tools to go elsewhere, but that's always the thing, to take it back home. And, we think about the new migration. They said there was an urban migration, the second migration. The third now is across the Tasman. And beyond. Our grandparents or our grandkids are having children over there that are 3 times removed, if you could say that. So whatever you think an urban Māori is probably debunking right in this conversation.
Well, my grandparents that I grew up with, that's on my father's side. Now, on my mother's side, it's a different story. So my grandmother moved down here because her parents passed away when she was 11. And she didn't want to be raised by the old people that were looking after her at the time, because they were really bad alcoholics. So she ran away. She met her husband here, had her children, never went back home.
Kia ora.
So there's the side of my whānau who have been, I would say, 4 generations now disconnected. So my whānau on that side, they know roughly where my nan comes from. So there's probably my mum, she's one of, I think, 10 siblings. And so of all of my first cousins on my mum's side, of them, there's 2 of us who are actively trying to find our whakapapa to reconnect our whānau.
Oh, this is good stuff for people out there listening that are in the same scenario. So what are you doing?
Well, I'm lucky. On my hokianga side, on my dad's side, I have an uncle who is a whakapapa buff. And so he said to me when I was up north, he was saying, "Oh, how's your mum, babe?" And and I said, "Oh, and he goes, "Hey, I've met some of your mum's whānau. You need to find your Selwyn whakapapa." And I said, "Yes, I do, uncle. I don't know where to start." And he said, "All I need you to do is to bring back your nana's death certificate, marriage certificate, and then we'll start going through all the church records."
Tika.
Yeah, ka pai.
So I haven't started this process yet. I'm waiting for documents to come. And that's what I want to do for my Selwyn whānau, because in that disconnection to whenua and to whakapapa, all the stereotypes I see in my whānau. The struggle, the feeling lost in the city. And we're Māori, but don't know how to say that.
That's good comment.
Outside of our immediate whānau, who hardly get together, there's no community, there's no tribe for this whānau. And so I have some cousins who have gone and connected themselves to different gangs. And, for them, that's what they needed, because they didn't have a big grouping of Māori people that they were connected to. Because, you get hoha with being told off from your whānau, so you want to go out and explore things. And so they've gone and connected themselves to these other groupings of Māori. But, in that, they're like, we're having conversations about, actually, that's not I need something more, and what I need more of is I need to know who I am as a Māori person.
Kia ora.
I'm like, well, hey, that's the one thing I can help you out in. I don't know how to do it, but I have some networks that I've got to try and pull some things together. So I don't know what I'm doing. I'm starting the process. I've got cousins now who are like, cuz I want to learn Te Reo Māori. Yes, awesome. So I've been posting up for them to connect to. Hemi Kelly's page, a Māori phrase a day, like just to throw them things that they can connect to online without being whakamā.
Kia ora.
Some of my half-siblings have kids and I'm like, you know what, if you want your reo, you need to send your kids to kohanga reo because then you can practice your reo with them and you'll be removed from feeling whakamā.
Ana.
You know, and they're just like, oh, and, you know, and because they're too shy to use the reo that they do have. And I said, but when you have your babies, then you have another person to speak Māori to, and then, you know, you can practice. And then while you're connecting to all these other resources, then you can create bubbles of reo with your own child in your house, with your kuri. So I'm like, to my strategy, my cousins, you've got a puppy, speak Māori to your puppy, here are the words. And so I'm sending them phrases just so that they've got somebody that they can speak Māori to if they're too shy to go to classes, because a lot of my whānau are too shy to even take that first step. So I'm like, okay, well, when we speak or even on Facebook or in our group, our whānau group messenger, these are the words that I'm going to use. This is what they mean. And so you're going to get used to seeing them written. And then seeing me speak them, and then eventually what I'm going to ask you to do is to replace those Pākehā words with the Māori ones that you've just learned for you to get used to using them and to saying them. And I don't even know if what I'm doing is right, but I'm just like trying to do whatever I can to help them.
That's the main thing.
Yeah. So we got two hapu.
Yeah.
I roto I te e rua ngā rōpū, ko nā Māori e noho ana ki ngā taone, engari kei te mohi o pai rātou ko wai rātou, and ko nā Māori e mohi ana rā. I really like what you said, they know they're Māori, they don't know how to say how they are.
Yeah.
And even, you know, i a koe kōrana mo te whakapapa, tētai oku hoa, te whānau have got their whakapapa, all their whakapapa, but they have no connection to their marae.
Oh, wow.
So they know, you know, they know all of that, but they have no connection to their marae and their hapu.
And even that nawe you talked of, Tūne, the trauma that, you know, it just takes one generation about, you know, and because we have whānau like that, their experience of a Māori world was a bad world. Was trauma of the most rotten symptoms you can get from colonisation. So that's their severance. So yeah, we do, you know, all of us, people who are listening, tātou e kōrero nei, e kōrero ana, well, I adopt the responsibility to try and help my whānau to relieve themselves of that. And you can skip that generation, you can acknowledge that.
Yeah.
And then you'll
move on.
Tiro here, puraporaki here,
yeah,
and move on.
Yeah.
Yeah, I always say to my whānau, those things that happened in the past, they don't define who you are.
Kia ora.
They don't define who you are and who you can be. Just acknowledge that those things happened to your parents or to your grandparents, and you want a different world for yourself and for your whānau. And kei te pai tēnā.
Yeah.
Kia ora.
You don't have to hide that, because for some of my cousins, they've been doing this underground, but haven't told their siblings.
Kia ora.
And I'm like, why don't you tell your siblings? Oh, no, because, you know, cuz they'll da-da-da-da. And I'm like, who cares, man? Like,
Yeah.
do what you want to do for your whānau, and then slowly you'll start seeing. I said, the more you start sharing, you'll start hearing that there are other whānau members amongst us who want the same thing, but they've been too whakamā to say. The louder we become, and, you know, we share all these stories, then you watch, people are going to stop saying the things that they used to. Because, man, some of my whānau, my aunties used to growl me for speaking Māori to my mum's mum.
Aye.
Growl me, and they used to have like big whānau wānanga about, why is this girl speaking Māori? It's disrespectful. None of us can understand. My grandma went off at my auntie, growled her. And but I remembered that feeling as a young kid. Like, it was the first time I ever felt like I'm getting smacked for, at that time, the only language that I knew. And I thought there was something wrong with me. And then my nana on my other side, she was just like, no way. So they had, you know, my two grandmothers had a whānau hui, and I remembered that feeling. It never happened again. And my auntie actually only 5 years ago apologised for that.
Oh, wow.
Because in her mokopuna,
Ka pai, auntie.
mokopuna are learning Te Reo Māori. They love
ka
it.
pai.
Need to go and see them at their speeches. And she's been so proud. And then after that, the next time I saw her, she apologized to me because she remembered that time. And I was so thankful for that. So to those cousins, I'm like, look, man, you know, our auntie, she used to be like that. But I think that was a sign of the times with people's ideas and perceptions of what Māori should be, and Māori is ugly and it's you're a no-hoper and it's a dead end. That was that generation back in the early 80s. But now they can see all the success in different forms of knowing your reo and your whakapapa. And so now it's kind of like being a mind shift for them.
Aye.
So, you know, look at our auntie now. She's coming to kapahaka competitions to support her mokopuna. And so through that, my cousins are like, oh, yeah, no, you're right. So then they're more comfortable with having open discussions about it at our whānau get-togethers around that auntie.
It's kind of like come full circle.
Yeah. Because I have whānau the same, and we all have whānau with the same ideas, is that I'm talking about the kura, sending their tamariki te kura, where they go, oh, I'm just not sure about this type of curriculum and learning. And then I always ask them, I pehea koe i te kura? How were you at mainstream? Oh, did this, did that. And I said, is that what you want for your kids? Why don't you let them be extraordinary in their own language, or at least the type of kura, and kura kaupapa, I'm talking about kohanga kura kaupapa, is that a sense of identity. If that's all you leave kura for, let it be that. Let it be a sense of identity. Because I know we went through mainstream kura, and we were just, me pono, they were the only Pākehā I knew in GI. And they were people of authority, doctors, policemen, and teachers, nurses, doctors. Yeah.
When I think about my whānau who are yearning to reconnect, I just think that for anybody out there who's listening, you just need to let go, because all those
Kia ora.
All those nawe that people had, it was a sign of the times that they lived in. That's not the time that we live in now.
Kia ora.
And I'm not saying that we've arrived to where we want to be. It's like, no, we are gonna, what's the next 50 years is so hopeful for me, and what I want for my mokopuna. I can see in my kids, they know their reo is better than mine and my husband's, and I'm learning reo from them, and I love it. And I love it. And, you know, even like the karakia that they're doing, my kids are growing up, there are no Christian karakia that they're growing up, you know, e tō mātou, kia tau, they don't know those karakia.
Wow.
We made a decision as a community and as a kura to remove those karakia from within the kura 6 years ago. And so I can see, and my daughter Ani, she's 10, and in Tangi Te Kiwi. So when you speak about identity, it's like it's getting stronger with every kid that I have, and with the that are coming through, because all of that is removed from them. That none of that has been, it's not in their world. But then I'm mindful of, when I speak English, to decolonize my English. So things like in my mahi with Mahi Tahi Media, ngā mahi whakapākehā, so we get people to do the Pākehā translations, and then I go through and I QC it. And I'm very mindful to remove words like prayer for karakia, because I'm like, nana, there are different forms of karakia in Te Ao Māori, but we need to communicate that right in English.
Wow.
So these are the things, the wānanga that we're going through, and we connect. So that was something that I learned from Whai Mākere Kā from the East Coast, who was a native speaker and a linguist. And she was really big on that. She was like, you know, and the kōrero I used to have at mahi with Whai Mākere, I used to have with my nan, who was an academic. And she was like, yes, you need to remove those words. The other thing that my nan taught me was we got to be careful, and we had wānanga about this in Te Kōkomuka, about these buzzwords, because Pākehā are using them and they have the English translation of them, but that's not what they mean, and it doesn't embody what the concept is. And so I'm mindful of that. And so with the English that I speak in my house around the kids, I'm mindful about that English, because I don't want colonized views to creep into my kids' sphere.
Kia ora. And to be associated with reo, eh? You're breaking that bond. No reire, how tō kupu mō karakia, kupu Pākehā?
Well, different settings again.
Kia ora.
Good answer.
Good answer.
Words like karakia when they come up, then in my head I'm thinking, is it a tohi? Is it a pure? Even though the speaker might have used the word karakia, is it a tohi or is it a pure? And if it's a pure, okay, then what's the right English translation for that? Because I don't want to use prayer. I don't want to use things like baptisms or christenings or ministers because they're not things that existed in the Māori world. So then we have to do our research and find the English word that best describes Te Reo Māori.
What are some further words, advice, encouragement to Māori that know they're Māori, they know how to say they're Māori because they're lacking that connection? What's some advice ki ngā Māori e whakarongo mai nei?
Find people who you're not scared to talk to about finding your whakapapa, because the biggest setback is I want to learn about who I am and where I come from. And a lot of the times for our whānau Māori, it's our own that are the barriers because it's like, no, you're not ready for that, or no, you're not the right person for that. And it's, hey, ko wai koe te ki mai kāre anō koe ki a rite. And we have that a lot in both my whānau. And so I'm like, you know what? I say to my cousins, if it's not me, find somebody that you're comfortable with talking about. Just your wanga about not knowing. Have honest conversations about how that makes you feel, and then find somebody, whether it's whānau or your friend or teachers, just to have a conversation about where I can start.
Tēnā koe, he rawe e rā kōrero.
Yeah, rawe.
We've had someone in our hapu that's come back into the hapu and has been removed. I think that was the word, you know, how many generations in their whānau. And now it's like, they weren't even missing.
Yeah.
You know, sort of a thing. So, you know, that's some inspiration to you all that are listening, that are looking for the connection. And I think too, you know what you said, it's got to have that the drive, I guess, within you to know, and it's your right to. It's your birthright.
It's your right.
It is your right.
So haere, hoatu.
Rangahaua.
Ana.
Pautekaha.
Yeah, could be just one name.
Yep.
You know, one of my good friends, you can't separate him from where he's from now, and I wouldn't have known that 30 years ago he was one of these people looking for his connection, but he had one name that he knew, and he was told at school he wasn't a Māori. He knew he was a Māori through his great-grandmother. So now I'm a Māori. No, you're not. You're not a Māori. How? And he couldn't, but he had just one name, and that's what it took. Hoi anō, e te tahine mihi ana e kupu whakamutunga au I mua I te waiata o te wiki.
Kia nei me tino kaha mātou te whakatoi I roto I a mātou anō, mea mātou tamariki, tuatahi he Māori koe, he Māori. Kaua e whakaro, you're this kind of Māori, you're an urban Māori, you know, e nei kōrero e hāngai ana kia, you know, te kōrero apirana, ko tō ringa ki te rākau te Pākehā. You know, so sometimes people think, you know, we walk in two worlds. We've moved on from that. Kia nei, I'm not in two worlds. He Māori ahau I tēnei ao hurihuri. Whether I'm a Pākehā, a Chinese, an Asian setting, I'm Māori. Koe nā noi hosa, if there's any, you know, he kupu kōrero whakakipa I te ngākau, he tātou katoa, he Māori, tuatahi ake.
Tēnā koe.
Kia ora.
You know, and if I could offer a t-shirt designed to you both, you know, he Māori ahau, pautekaha.
Pautekaha.
Yeah. Hoi no tahine e mihi ana ki a koe, e whakamānawa nei ki a koe mātou katoa, I ngā whakaaro, I ngā kōrero katoa, hei wānanga mātātou I tēnei rā, me taku whakapono ka whai hua, te mātinitini e whakarongo mai ana ki ngā kōrero nei. Nō reira mihi ana kia kōrua ko tangi te kiwi. Ko tangi te kiwi tēnā?
Ai.
Tangi te kiwi.
Tēnā koe.
Tangi ko te moho. Ana e te waiata o te wiki, ana e tētahi o ngā kaihaka, aha kua kāri ai tū I te tau I tō ai, hoi anō. E hara I te mea ka puta ngā tūmanako, ana ki te manawa, ki ngā kōiwi, ki te wairua, whakarongo mai ki tēnei waiata. There's someone, you know, I roto I te rawaiata, Katarina Mataira, her life was Te Reo Māori.
Yeah.
Ai.
And, you know, rawa ko ngoi pē whairangi,
Yeah.
pioneered te ātārangi.
Kia ora.
Pioneered a huge part of Reo Regenesis. And I horapa ki ngā wāhi katoa, ana ki ngā taone a kua kiwhea.
Ai.
So, e mihi ana ki te me ngā reo rōreka o ngā whakaihu waka.
Yeah.
Tēnā
Yeah.
koutou.
Beautiful
waiata.
waiata,
Yeah.
man.
And to keep such a kōrero, this is I think it's a really big kōrero.
Yeah.
Debunking the idea of urban Māori. It sort of turned to reconnecting, eh?
Yeah,
She had so many good points.
yeah.
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 It was fully empowering.
Yeah. And,
Empowering, that's the word.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
was
they are,
tough.
you know, I've always looked up to Jade, rātou me tōna reanga. Te reanga tuatahi puta mai i Kwani Waititi.
Yeah.
And they were the
Wani
example of the time, or the time now. Because a lot of them now are influential people in Māoridom for this generation.
E hara, e
So
hara.
e mihi ana kia koutou.
Tēnā koe, tautoko atu ana.
I loved how when she was talking about her whānau, or, you know, anybody in general, learning Te Reo Māori, she sort of said, like, to practice on your kuri or your tamariki. Classes aren't always the first step for someone.
Ana.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Learning starts at home. And you know, a lot of the time, ko te kāinga te wāhi hānea, it's where you're most comfortable.
Yeah. And I want to come back to the real thing. Dare I say the real thing. It'll reoccur, the idea of reclaiming your reo being one of the first steps of reclaiming your identity and then moving towards stream of whakapapa. Don't let it be the rock in your stream. Akona te reo. Koe nā e tāko e kia ana.
Kona te reo.
It's time to.
Kona te reo. It would be cool to get one on.
Ai. Moana e.
Moana e. Mehe me kei te whakarongo mai koe.
Ai.
Yes, you might be getting a call from me one day. E te iho pū manoa.
Ai.
Hoi anō, e hoa ma, e mihi ana. O tira, e mihi tonu ana kia koutou ngai taringa, puta noa i te ao, whakawhiti atu ki Guernsey. I think Guernsey is the most mentioned place other than Taumatu.
Yeah, Guernsey, yeah.
Might have to go there one day.
Might have to go there. Guernsey, yeah.
Guernsey, hoi anō e hoa mai e, kanui te aroha. E mihi ana, hei kona mai.
Hei kona.
Bit whakaronga pi kari kari. Gather up close everybody buddy. Taringa. Yeah, tahuri mai ki yo. Whakarongo ki te tangi a te kori mako. Kōrero flowing at the hook force. Kaupapa relevant, kaupapa out of bounds. Kaupapa exigent, kaupapa paramount. Nā ko nā whakapiri mai ki te. Kaupapa tino whakahira hira. Whakarongo pi kari kari mai. Hare hare mai, o Taringa hare hare mai. We gotta gather up close everybody. Gather up close everybody. Kani move that body. Kani move that Māori.
Taringa, he mea tuku nā te wānanga o Aotearoa, ā nā te māngai pāho I tautoko. To listen to more episodes, search for us on your podcast app and subscribe. Taringa, whakarongo mai.